We know there's always challenges whenever there's an American election, but as we have before, we're going to be ready to deal with whatever gets tossed at us and make sure we're defending Canadians' interests and opportunities in this strong relationship.
That U.S. presidential election campaign now underway. On this side of the border, Ottawa is getting ready for the vote, as well as the possibility of another term for Donald Trump. The Prime Minister has tasked Canada's ambassador to the U.S. to lead a strategy to prepare for that, and I spoke with her on Friday. Ambassador Hillman, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
I want to start, of course, with this, new Team Canada approach to the election year in the United States. How do you prepare for something when you don't know the outcome? What is sort of the strategy in that case?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. What we want to do to make sure that Americans and Canadians have sort of strengthened and reconsidered and sort of doubled down on the relationship before the election, it doesn't really matter what the outcome is, because whomever is in the White House, what happens that it's a source of strength for Canadian Americans, the things that really hold us together as two nations, they don't change. You know, it's our business relationships, it's our mutual investments, it's our supply chains, it's our mutual protection of the environment, it's our energy relationship and energy resilience. Like, it's all those things. They are what, not to say that, you know, relationships between federal governments aren't important, but it's those millions and millions of interactions that we have with Americans that are actually the foundation of the relationship. So that's what the task force is about, making sure that we are leaning into those, that we are communicating well with our Americans, all of Canadians to all of Americans, outside of Washington, primarily, frankly.
I get that there will still be policy alignments and that it's good to have different levels and people to talk to, and I know that's something you do all the time. But I think a lot of people think that if Donald Trump are to win, that it won't be just a policy direction, that there could actually be consequences to American democracy. And that has different implications entirely, I think, for Canada. How do you approach things knowing that that is a real possibility?
Well, again, you know, my responsibility and the responsibility of my team across the U.S. is to ensure that Canadian interests are promoted and protected. And the best way to do that, frankly, is to convince Americans across the country, across both sides of the aisle, that they are better working with us, they are better, you know, cooperating with us, they are more secure if we are in the tent with them. That's my ultimate mandate. You know, what decisions Americans make in terms of leading their country and who they choose to vote for, that's their business. But my responsibility is to make sure, no matter who that is, that Canada is front and center in their minds.
But if it is a President Trump, are you confident you can have those conversations? Maybe not directly, but with him, but with people around him, that you will have any sway at all on the federal side if it is Mr. Trump?
Yes, I am confident, actually. I'm very confident, because we had important success with them last time, with the renegotiation of the NAFTA. Frankly, with the border management during the early days of COVID, I was there. I was on the front lines of that. I was talking to President Trump's at the time, President Trump's COVID committee once a week as we were trying to figure out how to get PPE back and forth across the border. Right. I mean, these are pragmatic people who need to govern their country. And governing their country and having it strong and resilient and effective, there's no better partner than us. And that reality won't change, hasn't changed. In fact, I would argue that we are more integrated now than we were when he was in the White House last time, because of COVID, but also because of sort of disruptions internationally, and because of this U.S. Effort that has been growing to reshore and friend-shore their supply chains. And so we're the closest friend. So the investment that's going on by Canadians into the United States and vice versa has really taken off. And so I actually think, in some respects, those arguments, those facts that we called upon last time are almost easier to find today.
The federal Liberals, and I'm sure you heard them at Cabinet, are talking more and more about Trump and MAGA-style politics and trying to connect it to Conservatives in this country. I'm not going to ask you about that because I know you won't answer, but it seems to me that in the past, one of the hallmarks of the approach, the federal government's approach, was not to really talk about Donald Trump, was to engage, as you're talking about, but not to talk about him. And I wonder whether you think it's risky to be talking about him and characterizing him in a particular way from a political perspective.
You know what I would say to that? I would say that Americans who support former President Trump support him as a potential leader, and they support his policies. And they proudly identify themselves as MAGA Americans, and they adhere to the policies that are part of that platform. So I don't think talking about the actual policies in a factual way is going to offend anyone who adheres to those policies. And so, and to be honest, for me, I spent a lot of time talking to Republicans, including Republicans who are working towards developing policy positions for a potential future Trump White House about their policies. Why do they have them? What are they thinking? Giving them my perspective on how Canada plays into that and defending our interests vis-a-vis policies that they might be promoting that are not good for us. So, it is our responsibility to engage with all Americans that are potentially, going to be leading at the state or federal level, and we're doing that. And I think that there's nothing, there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, I think it's essential that we talk about those policies.
Okay, Ambassador, always nice to see you in this country in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Take care.